right. Hey guys, welcome to this week's podcast episode for the Financial Freedom Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Christopher Liu. And as you know, in my quest to discover the secrets of the top 0.1%, boiled it down to 4 different categories: financial freedom, time, location, and health freedom. And my mission is to interview those individuals embodying those traits, making a difference, and sharing those distinctions with you. So today, I'm happy to introduce Dr. Gina Simmons. And today is going to be talking all about the health aspect, mental clarity, emotional resilience, coping techniques, how to deal with the stress and anxiety in our world today. So, Gina, welcome.
Thank you, Chris. I'm happy to be on your show.
Yeah, I know we had connected through, and so tell people about, your origin story, how you got started, and we'll go from there.
Great. Well, I grew up in poverty and sort of had to struggle as a 15-year-old to try to find jobs to help support the family after a bankruptcy and after my father left. And so my single mother and myself and my little sister were kind of struggling just to, keep the lights on and keep food in the fridge. And so one of the things that happens when you're confronted with some of those major life stresses is you have to get creative, right? You have to you can't just rest on your laurels. And I learned the benefit of trying to think outside the box and finding new ways to generate income and so forth. From that, I always had an interest in creativity growing up, and I was a guitar player, self-taught, and sang and wrote songs, and most of my friends were musicians. So I started out singing in nightclubs and going to college, during the day, and trying to get up at 8 o'clock in the morning for classes while I was, working at night, either in jobs in restaurants or in singing jobs and that sort of thing. Eventually, he got harassed by some stalkers in a nightclub. And it was kind of scary because they were leaving notes on my car, and I didn't know who they were, but they knew who I was. So I was finding the life of a sort of a lounge singer songwriter not very enjoyable anymore. And I could sort of see that being a dead end pathway, and maybe not as meaningful as I had hoped of a career. And so at the same time, I was interested in psychology and human behavior and helping others. And so one day in despair, I took a hike, I took a walk in my neighborhood, and I saw this building with all these flyers for concerts and different things. And there was a flyer that said, "Volunteers for Suicide Crisis Hotline needed, no experience necessary, will train." And I had, of course, needed a paying job, but the volunteer work sounded really intriguing. And the ability to be able to help people off of the cliff of suicide really sounded appealing and meaningful. And so I took the number and I got this 40-hour training and supervision and met this amazing group of people. And from there, my life just took off. I got my first real good professional job in counseling and led peer guidance programs and worked for nonprofits. And from there, started a private practice and a consulting practice. So now today, I blog for Psychology Today. I've blogged for Forbes. I've written a book, Frazzlebrain, Break Free from Anxiety, Anger, and Stress using advanced discoveries in neuropsychology. And love my coaching practice where I really help people manage the tough, difficult emotions like anger, anxiety, stress, and how to deal with that in both the workplace and at home. And it's very meaningful work. I love it. So yeah, that's kind of my story in a nutshell.
And it sounds like, your journey, you've developed a lot of the emotional coping techniques. Growing up, you had to come up with these emotional solutions to thrive and be where you are today. So this opens up a lot of avenues. So one thing is talking about this idea of, so mental health is really come to the forefront after 2020, a lot of violence. Why is stress, anxiety, why are people so angry these days, road rage, and what can we do about it?
Yeah, I mean, those are huge questions. And I think that we've always, as humans, had these emotions, right? They're wired into our survival brain. I think what's happened is we have more ability to be more destructive with the weapons that we have, and our cars and, things like that can be far more lethal ways of hurting others and ourselves. But I think they've always been with us. These sorts of emotions have always been with us, and they're wired into our survival. So we do need anger as a signal to tell us something's wrong and we're being harmed, we're being threatened in some way. We might be threatened emotionally. We might feel threatened at work that we could lose our job, or, feel threatened that our relationship might be at risk. So anger and all the difficult emotions, these feelings of stress, are signals. And what happens, I think, in modern life is we get this idea that we're supposed to ignore it, right? Just if you're tired, drink coffee and push your way through your 15-hour day, And if you're hungry, ignore it because you've got to get those 6 emails out now. And if your, knee hurts, keep running through it, and who cares if you blow out your knee, you got to be tough. And I think what happens is when we deny our physical sensations, we ignore them, we push through it, our behavior gets worse and worse and worse, and we can cause ourselves more and more damage. So I think the best thing to do is to pause and ask yourself, what is the signal? I'm feeling so angry on the road, that if somebody commits one driving error, I feel a homicidal rage. There's something wrong here, right? Because I've certainly committed driving errors. I don't know any driver that has not done some kind of a driving error, right? You've been preoccupied, you accidentally rolled through the stop sign instead of stopping. We all want to be forgiven doing something on the highway that might not be legal. And yet at the same time, we can't forgive the other person. They're the maniac that's the object of our scorn. So when we teach sort of conflict and anger management, we try to help people kind of get to, all of us are human, all of us are fallible, all of us make mistakes. How can we forgive ourselves and others for those mistakes? And how can we pay attention to the signal that the emotion is sending us and provide ourselves some relief? So if I'm mad, that means that I'm stressed to the max. And if I'm mad about something really small, that means I need a lot more self-care. And what I tell people is, if you're not doing stress management every single day, you're not taking care of yourself. And stress management means you're getting some exercise, you're getting some rest, you're having some social interaction with someone you care about. You are having a moment to pause and reflect on your day and what your goals are. You are doing some deep breathing or meditation, even if it's just 5 minutes. You're attending to your body and your physical needs. So when we do that, when we are able to notice those feelings before they rise to the level of I'm out of control, the earlier we can spot that and provide ourselves some comfort and relief, the better our functioning is, and the less likely we are to injure our bodies, the less likely we are to have a mental health episode where we need medication or we need to, go to the doctor. So I teach people how to do that. And that is really, it starts with paying attention, but paying attention to yourself without judging yourself. Because I think what happens in our society is we see all these pretty pictures of people on Instagram with these, what seems like perfect lives, but we're not seeing the pain and suffering that went into those, pretty pictures. And we're not seeing the failures that lead to someone's success. And we're not seeing the painful moments of loss in these people's lives. So everyone has those experiences. But if we judge it as like there's something defective and wrong with me because I'm feeling really vulnerable today, or I'm feeling very weak, or I'm feeling angry, that judgment then adds to our despair and interferes with our ability to provide ourselves comfort and compassion. And when we can provide ourselves some comfort and compassion, our functioning gets better, even if we're going through difficult things like grief or loss or we can still function well through that if we are caring for ourselves compassionate instead of in a judgmental way, like suck it up. You're. And I see so many people who are in this mindset that, if you're feeling any kind of vulnerability at all, you're really failing. And that's basically dehumanizing. It's dehumanizing because all of us feel vulnerable at times.
We can get into the root causes of it. It sounds like a lot of it's is it because of the media? We have a lot of political strife. Is it the pandemic? Is it just basically this whole society? This sounds like the fabric is unraveling
Well, I think one of the things that, you're bringing up really big and good questions, and because we're all trying to find out the reasons why there is human suffering and strife and why there is violence. But if you look back at quotes from Plato in like 647 BC, he talks about how the society is unraveling and children are no longer respecting their adults and people are disobeying the law and basically everything is just going to hell in a handbasket. And then you read the works of Steven Pinker, who says that actually humans are safer than we've ever been. We're living longer than we ever have. Societies are more organized than they've ever been. So we're actually, the trend line of society is getting better, but we have huge problems still, right? But these problems have existed since humans have created societies. We've had conflicts, we've had wars, we've had the global pandemics are not a new thing, and this COVID pandemic is not the last pandemic that humans will have. These problems are going to keep coming up. Now, I do think obviously the lethality of our weapons is way, way more. If you could only shoot people with a musket, it'd take a lot longer to kill a lot of people. Right now, we have weapons that are extremely destructive in the hands of extremely unbalanced people. Those are problems that are pretty obvious that we could do something about as a society with common sense gun control laws and things like that. But in terms of humans breaking down and culture breaking down and civilization breaking down, we know that society is actually getting better, which is very counterintuitive. The thing that social media and our rapid fire ability to see what's happening in the present moment now with internet makes us feel like everything's getting worse because we're bombarded with things happening all over the world in real time. And so that creates this sense that, things are much worse than they used to be, because we used to not know about what was happening in Ethiopia. You could walk around in Florida and not know darn thing about Ethiopia, or maybe 8 months later, you'd get the message that something happened. There was an earthquake, there was a, tsunami. But now we're seeing video of it in real time. It does mean that to manage our stress now, I highly recommend that people have diets, go on a fast, a social media fast, and focus most of your attention on your own goals and the things that you have influence over in your life that you're interested in and your own values. And just spend a little bit of time reading the news, not watching the news, because the thing about television news is they have to sell products. And so they need to keep you paying attention. So they have to make everything sound as alarming and urgent as possible. And they have to keep you as worked up emotionally as possible so that you will stay tuned in. And that's not really healthy. And you can stay very well informed if you read a daily newspaper, maybe a news magazine every month, and you don't have to watch videos of people being shot, and you don't have to watch alarming things that stir up your nervous system unnecessarily and don't really help improve the quality of your life or help you accomplish the things that you want to accomplish in life. So I advise a lot of people for stress management is stay off of that. Turn off your notifications be intentional about how you're using social media. Are you using it to communicate with family? Are you using it to promote your business? Are you using it for fun, for creative inspiration? Then stay within that lane of what your intention is for that. And don't just be a passive consumer of what pops up on your notifications, because that distracts us and causes us way more stress than is necessary. And that may be the one change in the modern world that's adding to our stress, is just the real-time bombardment of a lot of pain and suffering that's happening.
Yeah, it's fascinating because I stopped watching the news years ago just because it's to me it's not news, it's propaganda. It's just designed to make you angry.
Talking heads. Yeah, talking heads. It's like as soon as they start getting into opinion, it's not news anymore. It's now, yes, there is news. This thing happened, and that we need to know that. But the erosion and the loss of our daily newspapers is making us less informed. So if you can do one thing for yourself, subscribe to a local newspaper or a good newspaper that's legitimate, journalists that went to journalism school and had to learn about how to write a story, and they've written the story, and then you just read that, and then you'll be well informed, and you can vote, be an educated voter, and read a news magazine every month maybe. And then the rest is just noise. I mean, a lot of the 24-hour news cycles, they just have to fill up the space, right? With maybe there's smart people giving smart, intelligent opinions, but it does keep us worked up. It keeps us worked up, and that sucks time away from our own goals and values and the things that give our life meaning. And so the more we can aim ourselves in the direction of our dreams, our hopes and wishes, our family, our loved ones, our happiness levels can go way up. And we're not putting our head in the sand. We're not ignoring reality, but we're embracing the reality that we can change. We're going to see improvement in our lives. And that has an influence on anyone we have contact with. When we're uplifting ourselves and we're uplifting the people around us, we are creating the change we want to see in the world.
Yeah, well said. What a fantastic way to end the discussion. There's so much, to lack of a better term, there's a lot of garbage out there, but there's a lot of good in the world too. So it depends on being intentional on what you focus on, and Gina's tactics and strategies, talking about neuroplasticity and ways to cope, can be beneficial. How do people follow you on, again, I hate to use the term, but social media.
Social media. Well, you can find me at Frazzlebrain, and you can find all my links to social media there. And I get back to people if you want to give me some feedback about this or anything else, or ask me a question. I always get back to people. And you can find my book Frazzlebrain, links to get that as well. It has a lot of really cool tips on how to manage your stress, how to manage your difficult emotion, and it's a soothing book to read. I designed it so that it feels relieving to turn the pages, because a lot of the books I used to recommend were stressed people out, because there was a lot of checklists and symptoms, and it just made people feel stressed out. So the goal is to really help you latch onto things that are going to really give you some relief. So anyway, that's my goal. And again, you can subscribe to my newsletter there and I put out tips, and all the time I'm always sharing research, new cutting edge stuff in the field of neuroscience that you can apply to your life right away.
And thanks so much. And again, Gina's resources will be in the links and show notes, so be sure to follow her there. And thanks so much for coming onto the show.
Thank you so much, Chris. It's lovely to meet you.